My name is Hannah, I'm 52 years old, and I'm sitting in Miami International Airport's security office watching my whole world crumble. The police are showing me crystal clear footage of my son Jake and daughter-in-law Melissa at an ATM machine, withdrawing thousands from my account with my stolen debit card. My hands won't stop shaking as I watch them laugh and high-five each other on the screen. Just this morning, I'd hugged them goodbye at this very airport, believing they loved me. Now the security chief is looking at me with sympathetic eyes, asking the question that's tearing my soul apart. Ma'am, do you want to press charges against your own son? Before we dive into this heartbreaking story of betrayal and redemption, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Are you someone who's dealt with family betrayal? Have you ever discovered that the people you trusted most were planning your downfall? Please hit that like button if you believe in karma, and don't forget to subscribe because what happens next will absolutely blow your mind. This isn't just about stolen money, it's about stolen trust, fake love, and how I discovered my son had been planning to destroy me for 3 entire years. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began, and trust me, you'll want to hear every shocking detail of how I caught them and what happened when they thought they were flying away to paradise. 3 months before that devastating moment at the airport, I thought I had everything figured out. I was a successful real estate broker in Miami, working with high-end properties along the coast. 2 years had passed since I lost my husband Robert to pancreatic cancer, a battle that took him in just 6 months. The life insurance he left behind, $800,000, was his final way of taking care of me, making sure I'd never have to worry about money again. I remember him holding my hand in the hospital, making me promise I'd use it to live well and be happy. When Jake, my 28-year-old son, showed up at my door with Melissa, his 26-year-old wife, my heart broke for them. Jake had lost his job at a tech startup, and they were facing eviction from their apartment. Just temporarily, Mom, he said, those brown eyes that looked so much like his father's filled with shame and hope. 3 months maximum while I get back on my feet. Melissa stood behind him, her designer purse clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. We have nowhere else to go, Hannah. You're all we have. How could I say no? Family helps family, that's what Robert always said. I welcomed them into my 4-bedroom house in Coral Gables, the home where Jake grew up, where his height marks still decorated the kitchen doorframe. At first, it felt wonderful having the house full of life again. Melissa cooked elaborate dinners, Jake fixed things around the house, and we'd spend evenings watching movies together like we were a real family again. But slowly, things started to shift. I found myself paying for everything, not just utilities and groceries, but their car payments, insurance, credit cards, even Melissa's monthly salon appointments. Just until I land something good, Jake would say, scrolling through his phone instead of job listings. He'd mention investment opportunities constantly, cryptocurrency schemes and startup ideas that just needed a small injection of capital to take off. Mom, with your experience and my tech knowledge, we could make millions, he'd say over breakfast, while Melissa nodded enthusiastically. Melissa had perfected the art of manipulation through compliments. Hannah, you're the best mom in the entire world, she'd gush while admiring my jewelry. That emerald ring Robert gave you is stunning. You're so lucky to have such beautiful things. She'd reorganize my closet, commenting on every designer piece, memorizing my wardrobe better than I knew it myself. You have such amazing taste. I hope when Jake and I are successful, I can have nice things like you. My best friend Diane saw through them immediately. We'd meet for lunch at our usual spot in Coconut Grove, and she'd lean across the table with concern etched on her face. Hannah, they're taking advantage of you. When was the last time Jake actually went to a job interview? I'd defend them every time, making excuses. He's depressed about losing his job. Melissa's supporting him emotionally. They just need time to get their confidence back. The red flags were everywhere, but I wore blinders made of maternal love. Cash would go missing from my purse, 20 here, 50 there, small amounts I'd blame on my own forgetfulness. Packages arrived daily, Amazon boxes piling up on the porch, always addressed to Jake or Melissa. When I'd ask about them, Melissa would wave dismissively. Just some essentials, Mom. Nothing expensive, but I'd catch glimpses of electronics, designer clothes, expensive watches disappearing into their room. My bank statements started showing mysterious withdrawals, small amounts from ATMs across Miami. When I mentioned it to Jake, wondering if I should call the bank about potential fraud, his entire demeanor changed. His face flushed red, fists clenched at his sides. "Are you accusing us of stealing from you? After everything we do around here? I can't believe you'd think so little of me, your own son." The guilt hit me like a tidal wave. I apologized profusely, hating myself for even bringing it up. Melissa mastered the art of emotional manipulation through tears. One evening, I gently suggested they might start contributing to household expenses since Jake had been doing some freelance work. She burst into theatrical sobs, mascara running down her cheeks in perfect streams. "We thought you loved having us here. We thought we were family. But I guess we're just a burden to you." She ran to their room, slamming the door, while Jake glared at me with such venom I hardly recognized my own child. "Nice job, Mom. She's been crying every night, worried you hate her. She tries so hard to make you happy." I found myself apologizing again, promising I didn't want them to leave, offering to pay for Melissa to take some online courses to boost her career. The cycle continued, my boundaries crumbling with each confrontation. My neighbor Ruth mentioned seeing them loading boxes into their car while I was at work, but when I asked about it, Jake laughed. "Just donating some of our old stuff to Goodwill. Trying to declutter since you're so generously letting us stay." Looking back now, the signs were screaming at me. Jake had a key made for my home safe, saying he wanted to help organize important documents. Melissa befriended my elderly mother, visiting her at the nursing home, becoming the perfect granddaughter-in-law, while subtly pumping her for information about family finances. They studied my routines, learned my passwords by watching me type, photographed important documents when they thought I wasn't looking. But love is blind, especially a mother's love. I trusted them completely, these two people who shared my home, ate at my table, and told me they loved me every single day. I had no idea that behind those smiles and hugs, they were meticulously planning my complete financial destruction, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. 2 weeks before my world imploded, the anniversary of Robert's death was approaching, a day I'd been dreading for months. The second anniversary somehow felt harder than the first, the finality of his absence settling into my bones like a permanent ache. I'd been sleeping poorly, crying at random moments, and Jake seemed to notice my increasing fragility. Suddenly, my usually self-absorbed son transformed into the caring child I remembered from years past. "Mom, you need a vacation," Jake announced one morning, sitting beside me on the couch where Robert used to read his newspaper. He put his arm around me, something he hadn't done in months. "You've been carrying so much weight on your shoulders. Taking care of us, working those crazy hours, dealing with your grief all alone. Dad wouldn't want to see you like this." Melissa appeared with her laptop, settling on my other side in a choreographed move I didn't recognize at the time. "I've been researching grief counseling retreats in California," she said, her voice dripping with concern. "There's this amazing place in Malibu that specializes in helping people process loss. Look, they have meditation sessions, therapy groups, beach walks, and therapeutic art classes." She scrolled through photos of a stunning oceanside resort, complete with infinity pools and serene gardens. The retreat looked like paradise, but I shook my head at the price. $12,000 for a week? That's insane. I could go to Europe for that. Jake squeezed my shoulder gently. "Mom, when was the last time you did something just for yourself? Dad left that money so you could live, not just exist. This is exactly what he'd want you to do." They spent days wearing down my resistance with perfectly timed attacks of kindness. Melissa would leave grief counseling books on my nightstand with sticky notes marking relevant passages. Jake started making Robert's favorite coffee blend each morning, filling the house with memories. They'd catch me at vulnerable moments, when I was looking at photo albums or holding Robert's watch, and gently push the idea of healing and self-care. Finally, exhausted by their persistence and my own sadness, I agreed. Jake's face lit up like Christmas morning. "I'll book it right now before you change your mind." Within minutes, he'd reserved my spot, using my credit card, naturally. Melissa hugged me tightly, whispering in my ear, "This is going to change your life, Hannah. I just know it." The days leading up to the trip felt surreal. Jake and Melissa transformed into the perfect children, cooking elaborate meals, cleaning the house spotlessly, even organizing a small memorial for Robert in the backyard. They invited my friends, shared touching stories about their father-in-law, and held me as I cried. Diane pulled me aside during the gathering, whispering, "Don't you think this sudden transformation is a bit suspicious?" But surrounded by love and support, I dismissed her concerns as pessimism. They insisted on driving me to the airport, Jake loading my luggage with unusual care while Melissa fussed over my carry-on. "I packed some snacks for the flight," she said, "and a few magazines I know you'll love." At the security checkpoint, Jake hugged me longer than he had since he was a teenager. "Have the time of your life, Mom. Don't worry about anything here. Melissa and I will take care of the house, water your plants, get the mail. Just focus on yourself for once." Melissa slipped something into my carry-on pocket as we said goodbye. "A little surprise for the flight," she winked. "Don't open it until you're in the air." Their faces were the picture of loving concern as I walked toward my gate, turning back to wave one last time. Jake blew me a kiss, something he hadn't done since elementary school. If I'd known it was goodbye forever, would I have still gotten on that plane? Settled into my window seat, I finally opened Melissa's surprise. It was a bottle of prescription sleeping pills with a note, "For the long flight and any restless nights. Sweet dreams, Mom. Love, M." The pills looked legitimate, from a pharmacy I recognized, though I couldn't remember her ever mentioning having a prescription. Still touched by her thoughtfulness, I took two and dozed off, grateful for the chemical escape from my swirling emotions. I woke up as we descended into Los Angeles, groggy and disoriented from the medication. My phone showed several texts from Jake and Melissa, full of heart emojis and encouragements to embrace the healing journey. Ruth, my neighbor, had also texted, something about seeing a truck at my house, but the sleeping pills made everything feel fuzzy and unimportant. I'd deal with whatever house maintenance issue had come up when I got back. Right now, I needed to focus on myself, just like my loving family had insisted. The Uber ride to the retreat center in Malibu took forever, winding through beach roads as the sun set over the Pacific. I remember feeling a strange mix of excitement and unease, like something was shifting in the universe but I couldn't quite grasp what. When we finally pulled up to the address, the building looked nothing like the photos Melissa had shown me. Instead of a luxurious wellness resort, I found myself staring at a modest office complex with a small, Pacific Counseling Services, sign. My heart started racing as I dragged my luggage to the reception desk. The young receptionist smiled politely but looked confused when I gave my name. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Peterson, but I don't see any reservation under your name. Are you sure you have the right location?" I pulled up the confirmation email on my phone, showing her the booking Jake had made. She studied it carefully, then her face shifted to concern. "Ma'am, this confirmation is fake. This isn't even our email format, and that's not our logo. I think someone might have scammed you." The room started spinning as the reality crashed down. I tried calling Jake, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Melissa's too. My hands shaking, I checked my credit card app, and what I saw made my knees buckle. The available balance showed negative $2,000. The recent transactions read like a shopping spree from hell. ATM withdrawals of $500 each, purchases from Best Buy, Apple Store, Tiffany's, multiple furniture stores. All dated within the last 3 days, while I was saying goodbye and flying to California. The receptionist must have seen me sway because she quickly came around the desk to steady me, guiding me to a chair in the waiting area. "Let me get you some water," she said kindly, but I could barely hear her over the roaring in my ears. My fingers fumbled with my phone as I tried Jake's number again, then Melissa's, then my house landline. Nothing but endless ringing and automated voicemail messages. With trembling hands, I opened my banking app, praying the credit card was some mistake. But my checking account told an even worse story. The balance that should have shown a healthy 6 figures was down to $43. Transaction after transaction scrolled past my blurring vision, 800 here, 1200 there, 3000, 5000. Electronic transfers to accounts I didn't recognize, cash withdrawals from ATMs all over Miami, purchases from high-end retailers I'd never shop at. The receptionist returned with water and tissues, having noticed my tears. "Should I call someone for you?" The police? I couldn't even form words to answer her. How do you explain that your own son, the baby you raised and loved for 28 years, has robbed you blind? She let me use their office phone when my cell died from desperate calling attempts. I dialed my neighbor Ruth first, needing to hear a familiar voice. Hannah? Thank God you called. I've been trying to reach you all day. There's a for sale sign in your yard. Some realtor is here with clients walking through your house right now. The room tilted again, and I gripped the desk to stay upright. That's impossible, I whispered, but even as I said it, I knew it wasn't. Ruth continued, her voice rising with panic. I talked to the agent. She says Jake hired their firm last week, said you'd already moved out and wanted a quick sale. Hannah, what's going on? My colleague from the real estate office was apparently the listing agent, which explained how Jake knew exactly how to forge the documents. When I got her on the phone, she was mortified. Hannah, he had power of attorney papers, everything looked legitimate. He said you were too grief-stricken to handle the sale yourself. The paperwork looked perfect, your signature and everything. We already have 3 offers. I called the police next, but the California officer who took my report seemed skeptical. So your adult son, who lives with you, took money from accounts he had access to? And he's selling a house where he's been residing. Ma'am, this sounds like a family dispute, not a criminal matter. You'll need to handle this civilly when you return to Florida. I wanted to scream that it was theft, fraud, elder abuse, but the words stuck in my throat like broken glass. The retreat center manager took pity on me, letting me use their computer to book a return flight. My main credit card was maxed out, but I found an old American Express I kept for emergencies, one Jake apparently didn't know about. The earliest flight I could get was 6 hours away, 6 hours of sitting in that small office, watching my life crumble through a computer screen. I logged into my home security system, but the cameras showed only error messages. The system had been disabled 2 days ago, all footage erased. My email revealed forwarding rules I hadn't set up, routing all my bank statements and financial communications to an address I didn't recognize. Even my social media had been tampered with, privacy settings changed so I couldn't see Jake or Melissa's profiles anymore. Ruth stayed on the phone with me for hours, standing guard at my house like a sentinel. She described the scene in horrifying detail. Movers had been there the previous day, loading trucks with furniture, boxes, even my artwork. They took everything, Hannah. Your living room is empty. I asked Jake what was happening, and he said you were downsizing, donating things to charity before your big move to California. My friend Diane's husband Mark, the retired FBI agent, got involved when Ruth called them. He drove to my house and confronted the real estate agent, explaining the situation. The agent, horrified at being part of a fraud, immediately called her broker. The house viewings were stopped, but the damage was spreading like cancer. Jake had been thorough, systematic, planning this violation of trust with military precision. During the agonizing flight back to Miami, a kind flight attendant noticed my distress. I must have looked like death itself, clothes wrinkled, makeup streaked, hands constantly shaking. Honey, are you okay? Is there someone I can call for you when we land? She brought me extra water and a blanket, checking on me every few minutes. I wanted to tell her everything, to pour out the whole sordid story, but all I could manage was, my son stole everything. She didn't press for details, just squeezed my shoulder gently. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Children can break our hearts worse than anyone else because we never see it coming. Her simple understanding nearly broke me completely. By the time we landed in Miami, I felt like a ghost returning to a life that no longer existed, prepared to face the ruins of everything I'd built and trusted. The Uber driver who picked me up at the airport kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror as I directed him to my house. When we turned onto my street and he saw the for sale sign, he hesitated. You sure this is the right address, ma'am? Looks like nobody lives here. I handed him cash, one of the few bills I had left, and stepped out to face my new reality. Standing in my own driveway, staring at that obscene for sale sign, I felt like I was watching someone else's life from the outside. The house I'd shared with Robert for 23 years, where we'd raised Jake, hosted countless family dinners, and built a lifetime of memories, looked violated. The front door stood slightly open, and through the windows, I could see nothing but empty space where my life used to be. I pushed inside, my footsteps echoing on bare floors that used to be covered with Persian rugs Robert had collected during his travels. The living room where Jake took his first steps was stripped bare, even the curtain rods removed from the walls. The kitchen where I'd taught him to bake cookies, where Melissa had cooked those elaborate dinners just weeks ago, held nothing but shadows and the lingering smell of industrial cleaner. Room by room, I walked through the skeleton of my former home. They'd taken everything: the bedroom set Robert and I bought for our 10th anniversary, the dining table where we'd hosted 28 Thanksgiving dinners, even the chandelier from the foyer. In what used to be Robert's study, only one item remained: our wedding photo, lying face down on the floor, the glass cracked as if someone had stepped on it. But the cruelest theft was in the master bedroom closet. The small shelf where I kept Robert's urn was empty. They'd taken his ashes, the last physical remnant of my husband. I collapsed on the closet floor, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. What kind of monster steals someone's cremated remains? What possible use could they have for them except pure cruelty? Diane found me there an hour later, after Ruth called her in panic. She pulled me into her arms, rocking me like a child while I wailed about Robert's ashes. "We'll get them back," she promised fiercely. "Mark will help us find everything. But first, we need to document this for the police." She was right, of course. The suburban Miami police who responded this time took things more seriously, especially when they saw the empty house and forged documents. Mark arrived with a digital forensics friend who helped us access my Ring doorbell footage from the cloud backup Jake didn't know existed. What we found made my blood run cold. There was Jake and Melissa, just 2 days ago, standing in my driveway with champagne glasses, toasting each other as movers loaded the last truck. The audio was clear enough to hear every word. "To our new life in Miami Beach," Melissa giggled, already drunk at 10 in the morning. 3 years of pretending to care about that pathetic old woman, but we did it, baby. We're finally free. Jake clinked his glass against hers, his smile nothing like the loving son I thought I knew. She made it so easy, always believing every sob story. "Oh, Mom, I'm so depressed about my job." God, she ate that up. Stupid cow never even noticed I haven't looked for work in 2 years. The camera caught Melissa making a phone call, her voice carrying clearly in the morning air. "Yeah, Mom, we got everything. The furniture, the jewelry, even found another account she forgot to mention." She's so stupid, probably doesn't even remember half of what she owns. She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "No, she won't be back for a week. By then, we'll be in the Bahamas spending her precious husband's money. Serves her right for hoarding it all." I had to run to the bathroom to vomit, Diane holding my hair back as my body rejected the truth along with everything else. Mark continued reviewing footage, finding more evidence with each file. There they were, loading Robert's golf clubs, his watch collection, my grandmother's china. Melissa wearing my jewelry, Jake trying on his father's leather jacket and laughing about how it finally fits since the old man croaked. Mark's friend helped us unlock their social media accounts, the ones they'd blocked me from seeing. The revelation was like diving into an alternate universe. For months, they'd been living a double life, documenting their deception for their friends to admire. Photos of them at 5-star restaurants, caption, "Thanks, Bank of Hannah." Pictures from shopping sprees at Bal Harbour shops, tags like "New money sugar mama life inheritance in advance." The comments from their friends were equally vile. "Get that bag." One wrote under a photo of Melissa carrying 6 shopping bags from Gucci. "Your mother-in-law is loaded, milk her dry." Another encouraged. Jake's responses made me sick. Playing the long game pays off. Sometimes you gotta invest 3 years to get the big payout. Under a photo of them on a yacht, he'd written, "Practice run for when we own one." T-2 weeks until Operation Empty Nest. I found a video Melissa had posted 3 months ago, right after I'd apologized for suggesting they contribute to expenses. She was mock crying for the camera, mascara strategically smeared. Just gave Hannah the performance of my life. Accused her of not loving us, and now she's paying for me to take online classes I'll never attend. Acting lessons paying off, baby. The post had 47 likes from their inner circle, all congratulating her on her manipulation skills. But the worst discovery came from their direct messages. Mark's friend recovered deleted conversations between Jake and Melissa dating back to before Robert's death. They'd been planning this since the day Jake introduced her to us. "Your dad looks pretty sick," Melissa had written. "How much life insurance does he have?" Jake's response: 800,000 to Mom, but if we play this right, we can get it all eventually. There were spreadsheets detailing my assets, photos of my important documents, even recordings of me giving passwords over the phone. They'd researched elder abuse laws, looking for loopholes. "As long as she lets us live there willingly, we can claim any money taken was gifts," Jake had written. "Just have to keep her thinking we love her until we can get enough to disappear." The private investigator Mark hired found their new apartment in Miami Beach, a luxury high-rise with ocean views. They'd paid 6 months up front in cash, my cash. Security footage from nearby stores showed them living like celebrities, designer clothes, expensive dinners, a new Porsche for Jake, a Mercedes for Melissa. In just 1 week, they'd burned through $300,000 of my money. We discovered credit cards I'd never applied for, opened using my information while I slept down the hall from them. They'd intercepted the cards from the mail, maxing them out on electronics and jewelry. My mortgage, which I'd paid off 5 years ago, now showed a new home equity loan for $200,000. They'd been collecting my mail for months, filtering out anything that might alert me to their scheme. The evidence mounted like a tsunami: bank records showing Melissa practicing my signature hundreds of times, security footage of Jake at multiple ATMs wearing disguises, receipts for the sleeping pills Melissa gave me, purchased with a fake prescription. They'd even researched whether sedating someone against their knowledge was traceable. Every detail planned, every contingency covered, except for one thing: they thought I was too broken and stupid to fight back. For 2 days after discovering the full extent of their betrayal, I couldn't function. Diane insisted I stay at her house, force-feeding me soup while I stared at nothing, replaying 28 years of memories, searching for signs I'd missed. But by the 3rd day, something shifted. The paralysis turned to cold fury. These criminals wearing the masks of family had made one critical mistake: they'd underestimated me. Mark sat across from me at Diane's kitchen table, spreading out the evidence like a general planning a battle. "They've committed multiple federal crimes," he explained. "Wire fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, and because they crossed state lines when you were in California, the FBI will be interested. But we need to move fast before they leave the country." He'd already contacted former colleagues at the Bureau who were reviewing the case. My lawyer, recommended by Mark, was a bulldog named Catherine who specialized in elder fraud. She took one look at the evidence and her eyes lit up like a predator spotting prey. "The forged power of attorney is amateur work," she said, examining the documents. "They copied your signature well, but the notary stamp is fake, and they used the wrong legal language in several places. No legitimate real estate transaction would have proceeded with these documents if anyone had looked closely. We filed an emergency injunction to stop the house sale immediately." The real estate agency, mortified at their involvement in fraud, cooperated fully. They'd already returned the earnest money to potential buyers and removed the listing. Catherine also froze every account we could find that Jake and Melissa had accessed, though much of the money was already gone. The private investigator, a former Miami cop named Miguel, brought unexpected intel. "They've booked flights to Nassau for next week," he reported. "Bought the tickets yesterday, first class, non-refundable. Also reserved a suite at Atlantis for 2 weeks." He showed me their Instagram stories from a private account, where they were counting down days with champagne emojis and beach pictures. "Living my best life in T-4 days," Melissa had posted. But the most valuable information came from an unexpected source. Jake's former roommate from college reached out through Facebook, having heard about the situation through mutual friends. "I always knew he was a scumbag," Tyler wrote. "He used to brag about his retirement plan being his parents' money. Said he was playing the perfect son until the payout. I've got old text messages if they help." The FBI officially took the case, assigning 2 agents who specialized in family fraud. They were particularly interested in the interstate element and the sophisticated identity theft. "This wasn't a crime of opportunity," Agent Sarah Chen explained. "This was a long-term conspiracy to defraud an elder." The sentencing guidelines are severe for good reason. Catherine had an idea that made me smile for the first time in days. They monitor your email, right? Let's use that against them. We crafted a fake email from a wealth management advisor, discussing a bonus inheritance from Robert's estate, another $400,000 that had been discovered in an offshore account. The email expressed concern about tax implications but confirmed the money would be released within 10 days. Within hours, Jake was texting me for the first time since I'd left for California. "Hey Mom, hope the retreat is amazing. Just wanted to check if you needed any help with paperwork when you get back. Love you." The audacity made my skin crawl, but I played along. "Thanks sweetie, feeling so relaxed. Don't worry about anything, we'll sort it all when I return. Love you both so much." We planted more breadcrumbs through monitored channels. A fake phone call to my lawyer, discussing how I was too heartbroken to pursue charges, emails about liquidating assets to pay for therapy, even a staged conversation with Diane in my driveway about how I just wanted them to be happy with whatever they took. Jake and Melissa, drunk on their perceived success and the promise of more money coming, relaxed their guard. The FBI subpoenaed their bank records, revealing the full scope of their spending. In 1 week, they'd bought $40,000 in jewelry, $30,000 in electronics, designer goods worth over $50,000, and paid off Melissa's family's debts to the tune of $60,000. Her mother, we discovered, was fully aware of the scheme and had been advising them on hiding assets. 3 days before their Bahamas flight, I met with the federal prosecutor assigned to the case. She was a fierce woman named Patricia Wong who'd built her career on taking down con artists. "The evidence is overwhelming," she assured me. "With the interstate fraud, we're looking at 5 to 10 years for Jake, 3 to 5 for Melissa. Her mother might face charges too for conspiracy." The numbers should have made me happy, but all I felt was hollow. We decided to arrest them at the airport for maximum impact and to ensure they couldn't flee. The FBI wanted them to go through security, eliminating any escape route. I struggled with this decision, knowing it would be public, humiliating, but Agent Chen reminded me, they publicly humiliated you on social media. They celebrated stealing from you. This is justice, not revenge. The night before their flight, I couldn't sleep. I found myself looking through old photo albums Diane had salvaged from storage, pictures of Jake as a baby, his first day of school, teaching him to ride a bike in that same driveway where he'd toasted to my stupidity. When did my sweet boy become this monster? Was it Melissa's influence, or had the darkness always been there, waiting for the right accomplice to emerge? Miguel sent one last update that evening. They'd spent the day at a spa, posting photos of champagne and massages. Their luggage included my stolen jewelry and several of Robert's watches. They're planning to sell them in the Bahamas, he explained. Already contacted buyers through offshore networks. Every detail felt like another twist of the knife, but it also strengthened my resolve. Tomorrow, their fantasy would end. Miami International Airport buzzed with typical morning chaos as I sat in a security office, watching multiple camera feeds with Agent Chen, Agent Rivera, and 4 Miami-Dade police officers. My hands trembled around a cup of coffee I couldn't drink, my stomach too knotted to handle anything. Jake and Melissa's flight to Nassau was scheduled for 11:30, and they'd just checked in at the first-class counter, all smiles and designer luggage. "They're heading to security now," Agent Rivera murmured, tracking their movement through the airport. I watched my son walking through the terminal like he owned the world, wearing Robert's Rolex, the one I'd had engraved for our 20th anniversary. Melissa strutted beside him in an outfit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, carrying a $30,000 Hermes bag bought with my money. The agents had strategically positioned themselves throughout the terminal. Some posed as travelers, others as airport staff. The plan was to let them get through security, past the point of no return, before making the arrest. "Are you sure you want to watch this?" Agent Chen asked gently. I nodded, needing to see it through, needing to watch their masks finally slip. At the gate, they settled into seats in the first-class lounge, champagne glasses in hand. Even from the grainy security footage, I could see them laughing, probably at another toast to their brilliant scheme. Jake pulled out his phone, showing Melissa something that made her squeal with delight. Later, I'd learn it was a photo of the beach house they planned to rent in Nassau with my money. The boarding announcement came over the speakers. First-class passengers were invited to board, and I watched them stand, gathering their carry-ons. Jake helped Melissa with her bag, playing the devoted husband, the same way he'd played the devoted son. They handed their boarding passes to the gate agent, smiling, stepping onto the jet bridge. Now, Agent Chen said into her radio. The figures on the screen moved with choreographed precision. 2 agents appeared at the jet bridge entrance while others sealed off potential exits. I saw the exact moment Jake noticed them, his body language shifting from casual confidence to confusion, then to growing alarm as the agents displayed their badges. The security cameras didn't capture audio at that distance, but I could see everything in their faces. Melissa's mouth opened in protest, her free hand gesturing wildly. Jake stepped in front of her protectively, his expression cycling through indignation, disbelief, and finally, recognition as he spotted more agents approaching from behind. Agent Rivera switched to a closer camera feed as they were escorted back into the terminal. Now I could see the fear creeping in, the reality beginning to penetrate their bubble of entitlement. Other passengers were staring, some pulling out phones to record. Within minutes, videos would be spreading across social media, their humiliation as public as their boasts had been. They were brought to a security holding area where the agents formally announced the arrests. The audio was crystal clear now. Jacob Peterson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and elder abuse. You have the right to remain silent. Jake's face went white as Agent Rivera read the charges. Beside him, Melissa began to cry, but not the pretty, manipulative tears I'd seen before. These were ugly, desperate sobs of someone watching their fantasy crumble. This is a mistake. Jake kept repeating. You don't understand. That's my mother. She gave us that money. She wanted us to have it. Tell them, Melissa? But Melissa had already turned on him, survival instinct kicking in. It was all his idea. She shrieked. He made me do it. He said his mother was loaded and stupid and would never notice. I didn't want to, I swear. Jake's expression when Melissa threw him under the bus was almost worth everything. The betrayal in his eyes, the shock that his partner in crime would abandon him so quickly. You lying bitch, he snarled. You were the one who researched the laws. You practiced her signature. You drugged her. They devolved into screaming at each other, each trying to pin more blame on the other while the agents watched with professional detachment. When they were both cuffed, the fight went out of them. Melissa's designer outfit was disheveled, her perfect makeup streaming down her face. Jake looked smaller somehow, all his bravado evaporated. The agents began walking them through the terminal toward the exit where squad cars waited. That's when Jake saw me through the observation window. Our eyes met across 20 feet of space, and time seemed to stop. His expression morphed from shock to rage to something that might have been shame, though I doubt he was capable of it. Mom, he mouthed, and then louder, Mom? How could you do this to us? We're your family. I stood up, walked to the window so he could see me clearly. I didn't speak, just looked at him, this stranger wearing my son's face. Melissa was screaming now, begging me to forgive them, promising they'd pay everything back, but I kept my eyes on Jake. I wanted him to see that I wasn't broken, wasn't the stupid old woman they'd laughed about. I was his mother, and I was the one who'd brought their fantasy crashing down. I loved you, I said quietly, knowing he could read my lips if not hear my words. Both of you. That's what I did. Then I turned away, unable to watch anymore as they were led out in handcuffs, their Bahamas dreams replaced with federal holding cells. The last thing I heard was Melissa wailing about her ruined vacation, as if that was the real tragedy here. The videos went viral within hours. Couple arrested at airport for stealing from mom became a trending topic. Their friends who'd encouraged the theft suddenly deleted their social media accounts or claimed they'd had no idea. The comments ranged from outrage to twisted admiration for my sting operation. Someone found their earlier boasting posts and created a side-by-side comparison with their arrest photos. The internet, it seemed, loved instant karma. 3 months have passed since that day at the airport, and I'm sitting on the balcony of my new condo, watching the sun paint the Atlantic in shades of gold and coral. The space is smaller than my old house but filled with light and possibility. Jake is serving 5 years in federal prison, Melissa got 3 years, and her mother received 18 months for conspiracy to commit fraud. The sentences feel both too long and not long enough, but justice was never going to heal what they broke. I recovered some of the money through insurance and the frozen accounts, about $200,000 of the $800,000 they stole. The rest vanished into luxury goods, paid debts, and living like royalty for their brief season of crime. Some nights I calculate how much each day of their pretend love cost me, but Diane always stops me when I go down that path. The money isn't what they really stole, she reminds me. Don't let them keep stealing your peace. The house sold legitimately this time, to a young family who'll fill it with new laughter and memories. I used the proceeds to buy this oceanfront condo, a space that's entirely mine with no ghost of fake family dinners or false affection. I donated Robert's recovered golf clubs to a youth program and kept only his watch and wedding ring. The rest of the stolen items that were recovered got sold or donated. I didn't want objects tainted by their touch. My therapy group for elder abuse survivors has become an unexpected source of strength. Every Tuesday, 6 of us gather to share stories that would seem impossible if we hadn't lived them. There's Margaret, whose daughter drained her retirement while she was undergoing chemotherapy, and George, whose nephew sold his house while he was in the hospital. We understand each other's particular brand of heartbreak, the devastation of being betrayed by those we loved most. Jake writes me letters from prison, each one following the same pattern, manipulation disguised as apology. I'm getting help, he claims. I understand now that I was sick. If you could just put a little money in my commissary account. I read the first few, hoping to find genuine remorse, but they're all transactions, even now. Melissa's family harasses me on social media, calling me heartless for pressing charges, conveniently forgetting their role in planning the theft. But life has surprised me with unexpected gifts. Through the support group, I met William, a 70-year-old retired professor whose own son emptied his accounts to feed a gambling addiction. We started as coffee friends, sharing war stories and strategies for healing. Slowly, it's becoming something more. He makes me laugh, checks that I'm eating properly, and never judges me for the complicated grief of mourning someone who's still alive. I've also found purpose in volunteer work, teaching financial literacy at the senior center. Every week, I help others recognize the warning signs I missed, showing them how to protect their assets and spot manipulation. My story, once a source of shame, has become a cautionary tale that might save someone else from similar heartbreak. The district attorney's office even asked me to speak at a conference about elder fraud, turning my pain into advocacy. Hope, the golden retriever I adopted from the shelter, has taught me to trust again in small ways. She greets me every morning with pure joy, reminding me that love doesn't always come with hidden agendas. We walk the beach at sunrise, her chasing seagulls while I practice being present in the moment instead of lost in the past or fearful of the future. The investigation revealed more victims of Jake and Melissa's schemes, elderly neighbors they'd befriended and borrowed from, never intending to repay. We formed a support network, checking on each other, sharing resources. Mrs. Chen from 2 blocks over brings me soup every Sunday, and I help her navigate social media to stay connected with her grandchildren who actually love her. Last week, I finally scattered Robert's ashes at sunset on the beach where we'd gotten married 40 years ago. William came with me, standing quietly as I said goodbye properly this time. I told Robert about everything that happened, about losing my way in grief and being blinded by fake love. I told him about finding strength I didn't know I had and building a new life from the wreckage. The wind carried his ashes out to sea, and with them, some of my anger. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about absolving Jake and Melissa, it's about freeing myself from the poison of resentment. Some days I manage it, other days the rage returns, but each day I choose to focus on what I've gained rather than what I lost. I have true friends who saw through the deception, a community of survivors who understand, a sweet dog who loves unconditionally, and maybe even a second chance at romantic companionship. The greatest revenge truly is living well. Jake and Melissa are confined to cells, their Bahamas dreams replaced with prison routines. But I wake up to ocean views, surrounded by genuine affection and purpose. They thought they were stealing my life, but they only revealed its true treasures: resilience, real friendship, and the knowledge that I'm stronger than any betrayal. To those of you watching who've experienced similar betrayal, know that you're not alone. The shame isn't yours to carry, it belongs to those who chose cruelty over love. And to those who haven't, please watch for the warning signs in your own families. Love shouldn't come with a price tag, and family shouldn't feel like a long con. Thank you for joining me on this journey from betrayal to triumph. If my story resonated with you, if you faced your own family betrayals or financial abuse, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories help others feel less alone. Please hit that like button if you believe in justice and karma, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of resilience and redemption. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that they can survive family betrayal and come out stronger. Until next time, remember that the best revenge is a life well lived, surrounded by those who truly love you.